You know, we've all been raised to believe that a high IQ is pretty much the golden ticket to a successful life. But what if that's only part of the story? What if there's another kind of intelligence, one that's actually more powerful? We're talking about emotional intelligence, or EQ, based on the incredible work of Daniel Goleman.
And this quote, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? We've all had those moments where our feelings just kind of take over. But what happens when they don't just influence us? What happens when they completely hijack the system? Well, the results can be absolutely devastating.
I mean, just take the tragic story of Matilda Crabtree. She was just a kid, playing a silly practical joke on her parents, hiding in a closet to jump out and say, "Boo!" But in that split second of pure, overwhelming fear, her father's brain didn't think. It just reacted. It's a truly heartbreaking example of what happens when our emotions completely overpower our reason.
So, how on earth can something like that happen? To really get it, we need to look at the wiring inside our own heads. Goleman calls this an emotional hijacking, and it all comes down to a constant battle between our two minds.
It's that classic struggle, right? The head versus the heart. On one side, you've got your rational mind. It's the one we're most familiar with. It's thoughtful, it analyzes things, but then there's the emotional mind. And here's the kicker. It's not only incredibly powerful, it's also way, way faster. It's an ancient survival system, built to react in a flash when stopping to think could literally get you killed.
And the star player in this whole drama is a tiny, almond-shaped part of the brain called the amygdala. The best way to think about it is as the brain's emotional sentinel. It's like a hypersensitive alarm system, with its hand always hovering over the big red panic button.
Okay, so here's how it works. When you see or hear something, that signal hits a relay station in your brain called the thalamus. And from there, the signal splits and takes two different roads. The high road is the scenic route. It goes up to your thinking brain, the neocortex, for careful processing. But at the exact same time, the low road acts like a neural superhighway, shooting a rough draft version of the signal straight to the amygdala. This means your emotional brain can and does react before your thinking brain has even finished getting the message. And that right there is an emotional hijacking. It's that moment the amygdala sounds the alarm and completely floods the system, drowning out the rational mind. It's why Matilda's father pulled the trigger before his thinking brain could ever process that the figure jumping out of the closet was his own little girl. It's the heart taking the head hostage.
So if our brains are hardwired with this ancient hair trigger system, are we just doomed to be hijacked? Well, no. Fortunately, the solution lies in building up a totally different kind of smarts.
And this is where emotional intelligence, or EQ, comes in. Now, this isn't about just being nice all the time or trying to suppress your feelings. Not at all. It's about understanding them in yourself and in other people, and then using that information to make better decisions. It's about bringing intelligence to your emotions.
It really breaks down into 5 key areas. It all starts with self-awareness, just noticing, hey, I'm feeling anxious right now. From there, it's about managing that emotion, like choosing to take a breath instead of snapping. It also includes motivating yourself, being able to recognize what others are feeling, that's empathy, and finally, using all of that to handle your relationships well. And the most important thing to remember, these aren't fixed personality traits. They are skills. You can learn them, you can practice them, and you can get better at them.
Okay, so this all sounds great, but is it really more important than good old-fashioned IQ? Well, the evidence is, frankly, stunning. It turns out emotional intelligence is a kind of meta ability. It actually determines how well you can use all the other skills you've got, including your intellect. I mean, check this out. When researchers try to figure out what leads to success in life, they find that IQ, at its very best, only accounts for about 20% of it. That leaves a massive 80% on the table for everything else. And a huge piece of that pie is emotional intelligence. It's why we all know super smart people who struggle in life, and people with more average intellects who absolutely soar.
And maybe the best, and definitely the cutest, example of this is the famous marshmallow test. The setup is brilliant in its simplicity. You sit a 4-year-old down at a table, put a marshmallow in front of them, and say, okay, you can eat this one marshmallow right now, but if you can wait for me to come back in a few minutes, you can have 2. It's a pure test of a core emotional skill, delay in gratification.
Now, here's where it gets crazy. Researchers follow these kids for more than a decade, and the differences were just night and day. The kids who managed to wait for that second marshmallow grew up to be more confident, better at handling stress, and more socially skilled. The kids who grabbed that first marshmallow right away, they were more likely to get rattled under pressure and give up when things got tough.
But here is the absolute bombshell. Those patient 2 marshmallow kids went on to score an average of 210 points higher on their SATs. Just think about that. A single moment of impulse control at age 4 was a better predictor of their academic success than an IQ test. It just goes to show how these foundational emotional skills literally pave the way for everything else.
So does that mean if you would have gobbled up that marshmallow as a kid, you're doomed? Is our temperament just our destiny? The answer, thankfully, is a huge resounding no. We can actually teach our emotions.
And this is maybe the most hopeful, most important message in all of this. Your emotional intelligence is not set in stone. Your brain is incredibly plastic. It's designed to learn and adapt your entire life. These skills, self-awareness, empathy, impulse control, are just habits, and with practice, you can absolutely change them for the better. So where does this schooling begin? Well, it starts right at home. Our family life is our very first classroom for our emotions. It's in those thousands of tiny, everyday interactions that we learn the basics, how to feel about our own feelings, how to read others, and how to navigate the complex world of relationships. The reason this is so powerful is because a child's brain is basically a construction site. The neural pathways you use the most get stronger, like paving a road, while the ones you don't use just fade away. This means that the emotional habits we learn and practice as kids literally get wired into our brains, making childhood this incredibly important window of opportunity for building a solid emotional foundation for life. And people are catching on to this. Some really forward-thinking schools are now teaching what they call emotional literacy. They're making things like self-awareness, empathy, and impulse control part of the regular school day. They see it as a kind of psychological inoculation, giving kids the essential life skills they'll need to navigate challenges down the road. Which really just leaves us with one big question to think about. When you look back on your own education, all the math, all the history, all the science, what was the most important lesson you never got? For a lot of us, it was probably this one: how to understand, manage, and wisely use the very thing that makes us human, our emotions.